So in this video, we're going to talk about simple events in JavaScript, how we can listen for an event like clicking on an element or item on a page, and then how to process that. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with my basic document. And with that, I need a paragraph. And what we're going to also add are some buttons. And this will be how we're able to do a couple of different things. So I'm going to start out and make one button, and it will be a toggle button. And then I'm going to have another button, and this is going to assign a class name. So we're going to see how we're able to do this. So with this will be ID of toggle, and this button we will give it an ID of class name. It's important, if it's showing up in quotes, capitalization will matter. That is the camel casing that I'm using for that. Next, I do want to make some simple styles so we have something to work with here. And we'll just go with our display none and do display none. So let the code completion help you, because if you do that, then you know that it's going to be typed correctly. So under display, now I want to set this up as block. So save that. And just for kicks, just going to make one that sets our color equal to red. So we have some simple styles that we can play with here. We have our page, and now I'm going to click go live, and it will show up here. If I click on the buttons, nothing's happening. We're going to pull up the console so we can monitor if we get any errors. We'll see, numbers will appear after this. So we'll know that we have an error, and we can also now see the elements on our page. So this is going to make it easy for us to see what is happening once the JavaScript is running. So finally, I'm going to add in our script. Now remember, our script is happening after the elements in the page, because we need these items to be loaded so that when we tell JavaScript to go find them, they exist. If the script happens before the elements are loaded, we will get a null object error, N-U-L-L, null, meaning nothing, meaning it can't find it, because when the script ran, that item did not exist in memory yet. So that is how that is going to work. Or paragraph, we could put something onto it, but because I only have one paragraph, I'm just going to leave it like this for now and say document.querySelector, and it's grabbing that P. If we had multiple paragraphs, it would just grab the first one of the document. That is how querySelector works. Now let's go here and go toggle is equal to document.querySelector, and in this case we use the hashtag because we're referring to an ID, and I will call this toggle. Next, we have class name. It's going to be equal to document.querySelector hashtag class capital N AME. Okay, so now JavaScript knows about our objects, and not too far, and we want it to do something with them. So to do that, we have a couple of different ways that we can listen for events. We can use the on method, so we could use something like this, toggle dot because toggle is our button, we can say on click, and it is not camel cased. It is all lowercase. It's going to be equal to function. And then we have some parentheses, curly braces, and now within the guts of the function, we will say p.classList.toggle. So this is where we're modifying the class list. Remembering in the previous video, we talked about class name and class list. Class name, if we set a class name, it sets it to that class or classes if we set the name equal to a space between each one and list multiple items. Class list, when we are doing it, we can target a class on the class list, or we can add and remove specific items from that. So it almost is like a find and replace or search for that class to see if it exists on the element. Now toggle is works the same as doing add and remove, so we could say, hey, if this one is there, then remove it. Otherwise, if it's not there, add it. Toggle just does it that way. So in this case, we'll just put red there. So let's save this, go back into our document, and we can see now when I click, class red is attached to that paragraph. I click again, it goes away. So we can see how JavaScript is now adding and subtracting that. I'm going to refresh the page so we can see it starts out, there's nothing there, so that exactly matches what's going on. Once we say toggle, then it adds it, and then we toggle it and it removes that particular element. So it's a handy way of adding or removing a specific class from our page. So onclick is one way that we can work with events. Another way that we can work with events is using event listeners. So to do this, we are going to tell our class name button to add event listener, and the event we're looking for is the click event, similar to the other one. Now we have a multitude of mouse events that we can work with, entering and leaving, mouse down, mouse up, etc. So we have a lot of mouse events. It's very flexible. Where on click, with on, we don't have as many options. With event listener, it's definitely more flexible. Then what we do is we list the function that is going to be called when we do this, and I'm just going to abbreviate class name as CN, and then we'll say button handler. Now this is going to be the name of a function I'm going to write next, and finally we end it with comma false. Now that refers to the bubbling of the event. So the event, when it happens, is it's occurring in the browser window, it's occurring at the HTML, then inside the body, then it's on the element that received that event, and then we have the content of that element as well. So all of those things potentially could be looking for or listening to that. So the bubbling is where we are in that event hierarchy and whether we want to trap that or not. The default is we just put comma false. That's the correct syntax, so just live with it. Now I'm going to write my function, and this will be cn button handler, throw in a couple parentheses, curly brace. There we go. So now I'm going to set my class name for my paragraph, and we'll set it equal to display none. Now you'll notice this time I use double quotes. I also use single quotes. When we're writing JavaScript, it's pretty flexible as to which one we use. It's not very particular. HTML, CSS, they care. JavaScript, you can mix and match as long as you don't try and use a double quote with a single quote and think they're going to line up. All right, let's go back over to our page here. I click on that and it went away, and we can see that display none is put onto it. Now we don't have any way to get it back at the moment. We can add red to it, so it's red, but it's not displaying. So setting it this way, with the class name, that is a little bit more difficult, or we need another button, another event listener, which we can do that. So we could have button, and I'll just call it reveal, ID equals reveal, and it's going to be similar to what we've done here. A lot of it is rinse and repeat. Let reveal equal document dot query. Whoop, I missed the key. Query selector reveal, and then I can go class, or not class name, reveal dot add event listener. The event is click, and this would be R, and just do BH, keep it short. If you come up with a shorthand that works for you, you can stick with that. RBH, a couple parentheses, some curly braces, P dot class name is going to be equal to display block. Now let's save that. Let's see how that looks. We got 3 buttons, so we could even change that to none and reveal, but we can see how it's working. It's red, goes away, comes back, and the red goes away because we're using class name, not a class list add or remove. So when we go here, its class is now display block. So hopefully this gives you a base understanding of working with classes. We have toggle on the class name and class list. So we've worked with these now in the last 2 videos. Now we're listening for events. We have a couple of different ways we can do it, add event listener and functions that we're calling versus using onclick. Both are totally acceptable ways of working. Good luck. Have fun.